I'm here today to do my mid-year reading check-in. I'm excited to review what I've read thus far, what I'm eager to get to, and share about my highlights from my reading so far this year. So far, I've read 84 books for a total of 23,112 pages, says Storygraph. I don't really keep track of the pages specifically, so I don't really care about these metrics necessarily, but I'm happy with the amount of books that I'm reading. I think that I've been pacing myself in a way where I've taken some slower months when I've been busy with other things, and then had some very reading intensive months when I've been a bit less busy and more focused on reading. I mostly am reading books that are reflective, emotional, challenging, informative, and dark, which I've talked about before is nothing new for me. I do prefer a heavy book rather than a lighthearted or funny or just in other way playful read. I haven't made much more progress on my list of 25 books that I want to read this year. I think I've only read 7 out of 25 so far, so I'll need to pick up the pace. One thing that I'm realizing is I put quite a few books on there that I don't own, which I think is a mistake, in that at this moment I have so many books that I've brought into my life that I would rather focus on the ones that I actually have here in my house on my shelves, read those to then make room for others. I don't really keep very many books once I've read them, so right now I'm full of books, need to read some, get rid of some. Again, similarly to as I've talked about before, about half of the books I've read so far are fiction and half of them are nonfiction. I don't do anything to try and maintain that balance in my reading life. That just kind of has happened naturally for me, and it has been pretty consistently that way over the past few years. My friend Katie and I are reading Steinbeck this year, and we've made quite a bit of progress in reading some of his works. I will pop those up that we've read here on the screen, and looking forward to what we're getting to next. We're moving on to Cannery Row, and we'll see where we go from there. We've yet to read any of Steinbeck's nonfiction, which I'm especially eager to get to, hopefully in the latter half of this year. My favorite book thus far has been Walk Through Walls by Marina Abramović. This is a memoir about the artist, her life. I think this book could be one of my favorite memoirs I've ever read, which I have read quite a few, but I don't think I've read many by artists, and Marina is a very fascinating person herself, and her art is so fascinating as well. It's incredibly provocative, engaging. It really makes you question what is art and the purpose of art. And I highly recommend also watching the documentary The Artist is Present. Goes very well with her memoir here. Walk Through Walls was my favorite nonfiction thus far, and for fiction that would be Rejection by tulathimutte, which I made a standalone review on because I loved it so much and thought it was so interesting to speak about. This is a short story collection that is very online, has a lot of internet slang, different conundrums that are being explored here that really only would take place or have come about because of the internet and the way this has changed our ways of interacting with one another. I thought it was a fabulous book and very well done. I've been rereading quite a bit this year, which is unusual for me, but it's been so enjoyable in that I've reread a lot of books that I think are amazing. And so my favorite rereads have been Of Mice and Men, East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and then also the Neapolitan Quartet, which are favorite books of mine. And I've also been doing a nostalgic reread of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, so that has also been fun. And yeah, surprisingly, my year has been quite full of rereads, at least for me. I'm not one to typically reread a book. The best sequel I've read this year, a little difficult. I don't really read many series, but I read a couple of sequels this year. I most recently read Spring by Ali Smith, which was a book I enjoyed, but wouldn't say especially stand out. If I had to go with best overall, it had to be Catching Fire. I think it's a great follow-up to The Hunger Games and had a lot of nostalgia for me, and just the twists and the way the game is so much more intricate within the second book is always fun with that one. In terms of genre, I've mostly been reading literary fiction, memoir, and classics. And in the latter half of the year, I do hope to read some more classics. I have been disappointed lately with new releases, and I think I just need to go back, read some older stuff. I have a lot of classics that I own that I want to read. My most anticipated new release that is not yet out is Racebook by Onyebuchi. Onyebuchi has written a few books thus far. They are all science fiction, and this is actually a memoir or kind of an essay collection type of book that focuses on the author's experience and observations with the internet and culture, which I think is just right up my alley and is an author that I'm very fascinated by and I've already enjoyed a book by. So I'm eager to get to this, and I didn't even know it was coming out until I was browsing on NetGalley, and I saw the cover, I think, first, and I was like, oh, that is a very interesting cover, and was so happy to request it and be approved for an ARC. So I will be reviewing this book prior to its publication, and I'm really eager to get to it. One new release that's already out, which I have not gotten to yet, would be Searches, Selfhood in the Digital Age by Vara. This book actually sounds quite similar to perhaps what Onyebuchi will touch on within their book, and is about the internet and culture, and I think this is specifically an essay collection, I know that, but I believe the author's personal experiences are maybe interwoven within this. It does sound like something I will enjoy, so I am very curious about this style of book. And that leads me to one of my biggest disappointments was Culture Creep, reflections on, I think it was like Notes on a Pop Apocalypse, which I read recently by Alice Bolin. This I did not care for. This was a critique of early 2000s, maybe late 90s pop culture general time frame there. And this was a critique of pop culture in form of essay collection that I just didn't really care for. A lot of it was missing the mark for me. It didn't feel like exactly the right topic or exactly the right conclusion to draw. Just a bit scattered in its focus. I also really didn't enjoy Shred Sisters by Betsy Lerner. This was a big disappointment for me, as it was something that came out last year that I was certain I was going to love, being that it was a complicated dynamic between sisters, which I have two sisters myself. I really enjoy books about family and family relationships, but I had a lot of problems with this book, and I think technically it was poorly written as well. So that was a big disappointment for me. My biggest surprise would have to be The Door by Magda Szabó. I read this earlier this year after reading Isa's Ballad last year by Szabó, and I enjoyed Isa's Ballad, but it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. But I didn't want to give up on Magda Szabó, as I've heard so many great things about her, and I thought, well, you know, I tried Isa's Ballad, it was good, I'm interested, I wanted more, so I did go with her, I think it's her most famous work at this point, The Door, and I thought it was amazing. It was so eerie and haunting in a way. Very interesting character dynamic between our narrator, who is unreliable, and her cleaning woman or neighbor, essentially. I think it is a great book and definitely makes you think. It is a book where you finish it and you almost want to start from the beginning again, because you feel like you might be able to pick up on some more things that are going on, and just has a very tense tone to it that keeps you moving forward as you're wondering what is going to happen next, and as you are set up to look backwards, where the main character is reflecting on the events that have transpired, you are eagerly awaiting the full picture to come to light. I also really enjoyed We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, which I read right at the beginning of this year. I thought I would like it. Sounded like something I would like. Read Shirley Jackson before. Know that I enjoy her writing style. Think she does quite interesting things with her characters and plot. And But this was better than I could have imagined. I think it is certainly my favorite Shirley Jackson that I've read to date. The setting was so immersive, this house and the family that you are with. Again, another book where you have this eerie, unsettling, unreliable narrator. It's almost like a bit of a mystery for the reader as to what exactly has gone on. And this is again something where we're looking back at the past. Events have already transpired. We are looking at where we are now and figuring out, in a way, as the characters are becoming more known to us, what went down to lead us to where we are today, which I think is a trend in something that I'm finding I'm really enjoying within reading. My favorite authors that I've read from this year for the first time that I'm eager to get to more of their work. Yi-Yun Lee is an author I read 2 books of in this first half of the year, back to back. One being her fiction book, The Book of Goose, and the second one being her very newly released memoir, Things in Nature Merely Grow, which I think is a fabulous title. I enjoyed both of these, particularly her memoir was incredibly moving and touching and extremely emotional as it deals with the death of her 2 sons who both took their own lives, which is terrible and so difficult. And I think that her story and her process of dealing with this tragedy in her life is one to learn from and respect deeply. I would love to read more of her books. She has plenty more and she's still writing. So I know she's an author that I'll be eager to follow from now on. Tony Tulathimutte, again with Rejection. I need to go back now and read his previous book, which I'm fascinated with. Alba de Cespedes, I read her side of the story this year. She has a few more books that I'd like to get to, and it sounds like more are going to be translated into English, so I'm eager to keep reading there as they come out. And Marie Nedier, I would like to read more of her works. I read My Heart Hemmed In, which I thought, again, similar to the Shirley Jackson book, similar to Magda Szabó's book. It was an eerie, tense experience where you as a reader don't know much and your character and characters are not giving you much to work with either. I really enjoyed that book. I would like to read more from Marie Nedier going forward. Some favorite characters that I read this year, Faina from The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey was just a magical little child. The way she was written as a character was just so whimsical. Her in her setting of the Alaskan wilderness was beautiful and very moody for the colder seasons. Rosa Sharon from The Grapes of Wrath was a favorite character, though she's not a main character, proved to be one of the most interesting people in the book. Lee from East of Eden, who I think is one of the best characters of all time. It's hard to choose a great character out of East of Eden when they are all so well done, well written. You have a lot of people you want to root for, and you also have people that you passionately hate within that book. But I have to go with Lee. He is absolutely one of my favorite characters of all time. Any scene with him, I find myself smiling. The dialogue that comes out of his mouth within the book is full of wisdom, and he's an all-time favorite of mine. Mericat from We Have Always Lived in the Castle, fascinating little girl. Our unnamed narrator in Invisible Man was very compelling to follow throughout the book. Alessandra from her side of the story, and I was captivated by her story and her family. Emerence, and I'm not totally sure if I'm saying that character's name correctly, but Emerence is from The Door by Magda Szabó. She is the neighbor and cleaning woman of our narrator. Emerence from The Door is an elderly woman who is very passionate about her beliefs and the way she goes about her life. She's very particular. She's not exactly nice, but you find yourself caring for her nonetheless. And Fabienne from The Book of Goose is our narrator's best friend, who has a strong will about her, is incredibly intelligent, though you only get to see her through the eyes of our narrator, getting to understand the kind of girl she is and also how perplexing her personality is a wonderful time within the Book of Goose. Book that made me cry was Things in Nature Merely Grow by Yan Li. As I already touched on briefly, it's incredibly emotional, super heartbreaking, and I don't think you can get around just how heavy of a topic that is being discussed within this book. It will make you feel incredibly emotional, and for me, I do express my emotions through tears, and I definitely shed quite a few tears while reading this book. And a book that made me happy was In the Margins by Elena Ferrante. This is an essay collection from her on the pleasures of reading and writing, which always makes me happy. I love authors writing about reading and writing and what inspires them, the tips and tricks that they employ, who they look up to, who they've studied, who they like to read. All of that brings me so much joy as I find books and essays and articles that discuss that, interviews, just broaden my literary horizons. And I am introduced to new authors, new books, and especially when reading this from an author that I love so dearly. Anything that she's mentioning, I'm now, thinking of, I might need to read that. I would love to read that. I want to understand what she saw in this book that she has taken in developing her own craft in a way. I did also want to reflect on booktube and making booktube videos and some things I've noticed in myself, in that I'm finding so much joy in making booktube videos. I feel more relaxed, confident in what I want to talk about, the things I want to share. It makes me more excited to read more because I want to then discuss more with you. I've had a wonderful time interacting with people who have commented on my videos and other booktubers on their channels. And I'm just so happy that I've made this decision to start talking about books on the internet. It's made me very happy. And I hope that something I've talked about has added some value to your life, whether you've learned something new, found a new author to check out, or read a book because of me. I really appreciate you guys for watching, and let me know what you want to see next. I'm gonna have some more time to read more, maybe do some more specific videos. I really enjoyed making my video on reading an essay a day, as it allowed me to explore a bunch of authors at once and a bunch of themes at once. But I'd also like to do some books maybe on specific authors, reading an author for the first time that I've been waiting to read, or maybe finishing up the work of an author that I've been loving and reading a lot of their works. That would also be something I'm interested in doing. So yeah, let me know what you think, how your reading has been going for this first half of the year, what your goals and intentions are for the second half of the year, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.